There was a moment in Clarice Lispector's life that forever changed her understanding of what it means to be alive. She was in the kitchen, making coffee as on any ordinary morning, when a cockroach scurried across the floor. Instead of simply killing or ignoring it, Clarice found herself mesmerized by that repulsive creature. There, in that banal moment, she discovered something most of us spend our entire lives searching for in the wrong places. The extraordinary isn't hidden in epic moments or grandiose achievements. It's here, now, in this very second you breathe without thinking, in this automatic gesture of holding your phone, in this heartbeat you don't even notice. But here's the truth that will bother many people. We've developed a deep, unconscious aversion to the ordinary. We live as if our real lives will begin tomorrow, with the next job, the next relationship, the next achievement. And while we wait for this extraordinary life that never arrives, we completely miss the miracle that's happening right under our noses. Jung would say that this escape from the ordinary is actually an escape from ourselves, because accepting that we are made of Mondays, lukewarm coffee, and awkward silences means accepting our most raw and vulnerable humanity. In the next 30 minutes, we'll discover together why the miracle you seek doesn't need to be invented. It just needs to be recognized. And maybe, just maybe, you'll leave here with a new way of looking at the life you're already living. You've probably had that thought no one admits out loud. My life is boring. Everyone else seems to be having amazing adventures, while I'm stuck here, stuck in the same old routine. Or maybe you've looked at your own hands while washing the dishes and felt a strange sadness, as if you were wasting a precious life doing meaningless things. This feeling isn't weakness, it's a symptom of something much deeper. The great promise I want to make to you today is this: your ordinary life is not the problem. Your inability to recognize the sacred within it is. Clarice knew this when she wrote about characters who discovered infinity in a raindrop on the window or in a conversation with the building's doorman. The extraordinary is not the opposite of the ordinary. It is its most hidden essence, waiting to be recognized by the eyes that have learned to see. But before we get there, I need to tell you about a discovery that will shake up everything you think about happiness and fulfillment. It's something Camus discovered when he realized that our relentless search for cosmic meaning takes us away from the only place where meaning truly resides. Keep this information in mind because it will make perfect sense when we reach the climax of this conversation. Now, tell me something in the comments. How many times this week have you caught yourself waiting for something different to happen in your life? Write down 1, 2, or more than 3 times. I want to understand how this restlessness manifests in you. Let me introduce you to someone we all know. Let's call her Marina. Marina wakes up every day feeling like she's wasting her time. She scrolls through social media and sees people traveling to exotic places, getting important promotions, living cinematic romances. Marina looks at her own life, ordinary work, imperfect relationships, weekends without epic adventures, and feels a growing emptiness in her chest. She signs up for courses, plans trips she never takes, changes jobs, hoping the next opportunity will bring the extraordinary life she deserves. Marina represents all of us when we fall into the trap of what Sartre called bad faith, this tendency to pretend we have no choice about how to live today, now. In this instant, she believes that true life is always in the future, always elsewhere, always dependent on external circumstances beyond her control. But Jung warned us that this fantasy of grandeur is actually a defense mechanism of our social persona, a way of avoiding confrontation with our rawest, truest humanity. The difference between Marina and Clarice lies not in the circumstances of their lives, but in the ability of one of them to recognize that miracles are not hidden in extraordinary experiences. They are embedded in the fabric of everyday life. While Marina waits for the extraordinary, Clarice discovers that true life happens when a housewife looks at her own feet in the kitchen and finds they're all the mystery of the universe. Now, I want you to do a quick exercise with me. Stop for 30 seconds and look around you. Choose an ordinary object, a pen, a cup, your own hands. Really observe it, as if for the first time. Feel the texture. Notice the shadows. Realize that this ordinary object carries a whole story, a complexity you've never stopped to acknowledge. This is the first glimpse of what we're talking about here. There is a deep psychological reason for our resistance to the present, and it has three fundamental layers that we need to understand. The first layer is what Jung would call ego inflation. We develop an unconscious fantasy that we deserve more than ordinary life offers us. This fantasy protects us from the vulnerability of accepting our human condition, but it also traps us in perpetual dissatisfaction. The second layer is even more subtle, the sacred terror of the present moment. Camus intuited that there is something terrifying about fully inhabiting the now. When we truly stop escaping through distractions, future plans, and past memories, we confront our own mortality, our fundamental aloneness, and, paradoxically, our profound connection to all that exists. This is why we prefer the safety of distraction to the radical vulnerability of being completely here, with no escape. The third layer is the one Clarice explored most in her work. The discovery that every ordinary gesture carries a secret alchemy that we systematically ignore. When she writes about a woman preparing coffee, she's not talking about coffee. She's revealing ritual, the sacredness of repeated acts, the wisdom our hands know before our minds. Jung would recognize in these actions archetypes in motion, ancestral patterns that connect us with all humanity that has ever lived. If this is making sense so far, subscribe to the channel, because now comes the part that almost no one tells you: the difference between intellectually accepting these ideas and living them viscerally in the body, in the breath, in everyday gestures. But before we dive into practical transformation, I need to share something Alan Watts discovered about the illusory nature of our pursuit of extraordinary experiences. It's an understanding that will connect all the dots we're making here, but it will only make complete sense when we grasp the ultimate paradox of this journey. There was a Zen monk who spent 40 years meditating on the mountain, seeking enlightenment. When he finally descended into the village, people surrounded him, eager to hear about his great spiritual revelations. He smiled and said, "I discovered that when I'm thirsty, I drink water. When I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm tired, I sleep." The people were disappointed. "But anyone can do that," they protested. The monk replied, "No, you do 1,000 other things when you drink, eat, or sleep. I just drink, eat, and sleep." If you've made it this far in our conversation, you're part of a very select group of people who are truly willing to question the nature of their own existence. Most give up when they realize that true transformation doesn't involve acquiring something new, but recognizing what's already there. It's easier to buy a personal development course than to accept that you already are exactly who you were striving to be, and that your ordinary life is already the miracle you've been waiting for. Alan Watts would remind us that we don't need to go to Tibet to find the sacred. It's in the way we hold a pen, in the rhythm of our breathing while waiting for the elevator, in the patience with which a mother ties her child's shoe for the 1,000th time. The tragedy is that we've developed a cultural blindness to these microscopic miracles, always expecting the divine to arrive with fireworks. But the truth is infinitely more subtle and profound. The sacred seeps through the pores of ordinary life. It's in the unconscious precision with which a baker kneads dough every morning. It's in the way your fingers know exactly where the light switch is in the dark. It's in this very moment, when your cells renew themselves, your heart beats without your asking, Your lungs breathe the same air that billions of people before you breathed. Now, I'm going to share something that will address that first question I left open: how Camus discovered where meaning truly resides. He realized that our relentless search for cosmic meaning, for a grand reason for existence, distances us from the only place where meaning manifests itself, in the very act of living consciously, without the need for external justification. This connects directly to what Jung called individuation, the courageous process of embracing both our greatness and our smallness, our exceptionality and our absolute normality. The real revolution doesn't happen in the streets, but in the kitchen at 6 a.m, when we decide to stop resisting who we are and what our lives truly are. Clarice intuited this truth when her characters discovered that radical acceptance is not resignation. It is a fierce form of self-love. It is looking at our ordinary existence and saying, yes, this too is sacred. This too deserves to be lived fully. When we stop expecting life to be different than it is, something extraordinary happens. We begin to truly live. But here's the paradox that will blow your mind. This acceptance isn't passive. It's a radical act of presence. It's choosing to see beauty in imperfection, find depth in simplicity, discover infinity in the finite. It's understanding that our humanity lies not in becoming superhuman, but in becoming fully human. Which of these parts has surprised you the most so far? How do you plan to apply this perspective to your daily life? Let me know in the comments, because I'd love to hear how these ideas resonate with you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now is the time. Commenting and sharing also helps others find these insights that can transform the way they relate to their own lives. The time has come to fully resolve that first promise I made at the beginning. Why the miracle you seek doesn't need to be invented, just recognized. The answer lies in a discovery Clarice made through her characters and that Jung confirmed through analytical psychology. We are not beings who occasionally have spiritual experiences. We are spiritual experiences that occasionally forget their own sacred nature. Every breath you take is a biological miracle involving billions of years of evolution. Every heartbeat is an electrochemical symphony more complex than any technology we've invented. Every thought that passes through your mind is a neurological phenomenon we don't yet fully understand. You don't need to go to India. You don't need to meditate for hours. You don't need to have dramatic mystical experiences. You are already the miracle you've been searching for. The great transformation happens when you stop treating your life as a draft of the real life you will live someday. When you recognize that this moment, this very moment, with all its problems, imperfections, and banalities, is the only life you have and simultaneously is infinitely precious precisely because of its temporary and fragile nature. The practical synthesis is simple yet revolutionary. First, stop waiting for the extraordinary life and start fully inhabiting the life you already have. Second, develop eyes to see the sacred in the ordinary, recognizing that every automatic gesture carries an ancestral intelligence. Third, radically embrace your ordinary humanity as the gateway to an extraordinarily present and conscious life experience. And suddenly I knew I was being. And that was happiness. These words from Clarice capture the essence of everything we've discussed here. She discovered that we don't need to transcend the everyday, but to dive deeper into it, finding in this immersion the lost connection with our essential humanity. The countercultural truth is this: most people will watch this video, agree with everything intellectually, and continue waiting for extraordinary life to arrive from outside. They will continue to treat their ordinary existence as a problem to be solved rather than a miracle to be recognized. But you can be different. You can be one of the rare people who understands that the absurd doesn't need to have cosmic meaning to be lived with passion and full presence. My invitation is simple. Start seeing your ordinary life through the eyes of a beginner today. When you brush your teeth, truly feel the texture of the brush in your mouth. When you walk to work, realize that your feet know the way with a wisdom that transcends thought. When you hug someone you love, recognize that this simple gesture carries all the tenderness our species has developed over millennia. The miracle of ordinary life isn't about transforming it into something it isn't. It's about recognizing what it always was, the only place where life truly happens, the only moment where you can truly be. If this video touched something inside you, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Also, share it with someone who needs to hear that extraordinary life isn't hidden anywhere, it's happening right now, in the radical simplicity of being alive. And in the comments, tell us something. What was the most common moment of your week that you now see with different eyes after this conversation? I want to know how this shift in perspective is manifesting in your experience. In the next video, we'll explore something even deeper, why our relationship with loneliness reveals everything about our capacity for intimacy with ourselves. Don't miss it, because it's a conversation that could forever change the way you relate to your own company. Until then, remember, you are already the miracle you've been looking for. You just need to acknowledge it